トビデオ
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris.
If you've been keeping up with the news lately, it's a rotten time to be an American right now. As I write this, I am currently channeling the blinding rage I am feeling right now into something constructive, which is writing this very video you are probably watching right now. I am alive and I am doing what I can. But it's not enough. I need an outlet for my hate. Something foul and irredeemable. I desire a wretched anime that would be the perfect target for me to spray the venom currently dripping off my tongue right now. Well, we can always find the perfect focus of my ire in the storied year of 1998, aka the worst year in anime, trademark pending. The year where the industry is in such dire straits that not even the presence of Cowboy Bebop and Serial Experiments Lain could salvage it. The beginning of one of the roughest transitional periods the anime industry has ever faced up to that point, and the anime produced in that period speak for themselves.
I just kept waiting!
Waiting for what?
For a Christmas present from you! And a Christmas card! And for you to take some time off!
For this episode, I have unearthed one of the rankest pieces of garbage from that year. And despite emerging from two of the brightest and most creative minds of 90s otaku culture, the end product is one of the most stupid, hideous, half-hearted piles of conservative fanfiction dog water I have ever had the misfortune of sitting through. Folks, this is Virgin Fleet.
It's our duty to our country to protect our virginity! Men are the enemy!
It's an alternate 1923, and the First World War has entered its final stages. The Allied forces from Russia are closing in for a full-scale ground invasion of Japan, and they have numbers on their side. Faced with a dire outcome, the Japanese army send out their final trump card, the Virgin Fleet, an all-female squadron of fighter pilots. And before you think that sounds cool, let me finish. An all-female squadron of fighter pilots made up of chaste young virgins. Chaste young virgins with special magical powers called Virgin Energy, which they draw from their status as chaste young virgins. Think that's dumb? Don't worry, we're just getting started. The Virgin Fleet fights off the invasion and helps usher the Great War into a temporary ceasefire, but at the cost of most of the fleets. 15 years later, a young lady named Shiokaze Umino has enrolled into the Imperial Navy Nakano School Women's Branch. Not because she wants to join in the Virgin Fleet or even help in the war effort in case the ceasefire goes hot, which is becoming a dangerously close reality, but because she wants to be the perfect bride for her arranged fiancé, local nice guy / Tenchi clone number 16, Mao Sakisaka.
Graduating from here will prove that I am a virgin. All I need is bona fide proof, and then I'll make the perfect bride.
By chance, the officers at the Naval Academy discover that Shiokaze might be the most virtuous virgin that ever virgined. Her virgin energy potential is so prominent and so off the charts that she's sworn into an entrance exam to join the Virgin Fleet's newly reformed 36 Minstrels unit. Other examinees include Shiokaze's senpai and snooty rival, Satsuki Yukimisawa, and token cutesy underclassman, Komachi Kusatsuzuki.
Anyone who refuses to take the exam will immediately be expelled. Also, know that there is only one unfilled position in the 36 Minstrels. Those who fail the exam should consider themselves expelled. That is all.
So begins Shiokaze's chaste and virtuous tenure as a member of the unblemished Virgin Fleet. Many obstacles will stand in her way on her journey though. Obstacles like petty school rivalries, Russian spies, the patriarchal fist of the Imperial Japanese Navy brass.
And what can a woman hope to do on the front lines? Although with the way they scream, it might help to confuse the enemy.
And the fact that Shiokaze does not know how to fly a plane because she skipped flying lessons just to spend more time with Mao. Wait, what?
Oh, Mao, I've been skipping gym class and flight class for all this time. I've never flown.
You've got to be kidding me!
Hey, I told you this is gonna be dumb. Welcome to Virgin Fleet, everyone. Not the Virgin Atlantic Fleet, nor the term used for people who are still mad at The Last Jedi 7 years later, but the 1998 OVA of Ill-Repute. Going into it, I had some inkling of what to expect. Among retroheads like myself, this has been a pretty maligned anime for years now. but even then, it never reached that level of infamy that ensures a kind of bad taste immortality. But oh dear viewers, I was simply not prepared. Virgin Fleet is bad in so many ways. Visually slipshod, the premise is stupid in both the traditional sense and the fact that no thought was put into it at all, and the themes it sets on the table are so thoroughly creepy and ill-conceived that thinking about them long enough makes the bile rise to the back of my throat. In short, I don't think I like Virgin Fleet all that much. So enough dilly-dallying, sports fans. This fresh meat is begging for me to tear into it, and I am hungry. Let's see why Virgin Fleet fails to take off.
We're going down now, so hold on tight, Mal!
Oh, you can bet I am.
If you remember a few minutes ago in my intro, I mentioned that Virgin Fleet was the product of two famous creative minds of 90s anime culture. Let's talk about them. The first suspect is Teruhisa Hiroi, better known by his nom de plume, Oji Hiroi, even better known as the guy behind the entire Sakura Wars franchise. I'll get into a more detailed biography at a later date since there are Sakura Wars anime out there. For now, what you should know about Hiroi is that, at the time Virgin Fleet was undergoing production, he had just become the hottest creative in town. The first Sakura Wars game had just come out on September 27th, 1996. Dubbed what Hiroi called a dramatic adventure game, Sakura Wars was a cross-genre sensation that combined the visual novel dating sim method of storytelling with the gameplay of a tactical role-playing game. With its big selling point being that the choices you made in the dating sim's dialogue trees can affect your performance on the battlefield, it was truly innovative for its time, influencing future video game franchises like the Persona series and future Fire Emblem games. It also showed the people what Hiroi was into, and that was two things: alternative historical settings and cute girls. The premise of the Sakura Wars series is an all-female squadron of the Imperial Japanese Navy in the 1920s, devoted to fighting against supernatural threats in their steampunk power armor called Cobus, all while maintaining their cover as a theatrical troupe. Yeah, it's not that big a leap to see how Hiroi went from this to Virgin Fleet. Hiroi had been in the anime industry's orbit since the start of the 90s, having also been the original creator of the Mato King Granzor series. And naturally, there was the Sakura Wars OVA released in '97. From this, we can assume that Virgin Wars was born out of Hiroi getting himself a blank check to make any new anime project he could conceive of. He wasn't going to do it alone, of course, as putting Hiroi's ideas into a screenplay would be his partner in crime for this venture, Yasuhiro Imagawa. Around this time, Imagawa was having a very busy period of work. He was currently in the process of wrapping the finale of his large-scale epic tribute to Mitsuteru Yokoyama, Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still, as well as having finished his time as head director for the 1997 anime adaptation of Berserk. Let me make this crystal clear. The guys behind this anime are not hacks. Even the people putting this together have serious credentials. Director Masahiro Hosoda has an impressive resume as director for numerous Dragon Ball Z episodes, and character designer Hiroyuki Kitazume was the mind behind the Moldiver OVA. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out how badly each and every one of them made an anime this inferior. I went into Virgin Fleet with an open mind and an open heart. It's what I always try to do with the anime I analyze. It is what allows me to get something out of certain titles that most professional critics would dismiss as trash. That did not happen with Virgin Fleet. The only thing I got out of it was a migraine. Let's start with the animation like we always do. It's not great. The art direction of Masahiro Sato and Takashi Waki are really good in giving the non-combat scenes some nice atmosphere, whether they be a balmy night at the summer festival or an overcast winter's evening on New Year's Eve. And some of Kitazume's designs for the female cast do kind of work for me. Designs like Suzukure, who has the sharp design that can only be described as female Yakuza, and it's badass enough to make you wish he was in a different anime.
Oh, by the way, this is a scary person who lives with us.
We all live together now, and you're going to do your share, right?
Right!
And I did kind of fall for Nurse Issei, who is just the right amount of creepy.
My, looks like it's going to be a busy day. I'm looking forward to this.
Everything else, on the other hand, ranged from rote and standard to, oh god, are you sure you don't want to take another pass at this? If there's one thing I have always hammered home, is that good animation can sometimes be a mid-anime saving grace. But when that animation is mediocre to bad, Goodnight Nurse is going down in flames. I am stunned at how bland the overall animation is. I am so fortunate that I've covered 2 OVAs centered around fighter jets, one of them being with cute girls, so I have a frame of reference in how good jet fighting choreography is supposed to go. The aerial sortie scenes are total yawn factories. The planes don't embody the speed or aerial acrobatics that one would expect from dogfighting. Maybe it's out of the interest for historical accuracy, since I doubt one could give the Van Halen's Dreams video treatment to 1930s aircraft. But even then, dogfighting has always been a source of exciting action scenes since the silent movie days. There's no excuse for having your flight set pieces half consist of planes hanging like bricks in the wild blue yonder. It all comes down to the boarding, which was done by a different person each episode. Not only does it lead to Virgin Fleet having an inconsistent feel to it episode to episode, but it seems like most of the shots are boarded in such a way that they're either causing my eyes to glaze over with how uninspired they look, or confusing me by boarding the action in a way that makes it hard to follow. And while I give credit to 2 of Kitazume's designs, the vast majority of them don't really do much for me. On one side, you have the cartoonishly ugly designs of the patriarchal Navy brass guys. Their designs are intentional given that they are supposed to be unpleasant masculine obstacles in the way of the pure lovely maidens strutting their stuff. But it doesn't change that these designs are hard to look at, and when they are actually given somber and serious moments, you cannot take them seriously for even a millisecond. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the virgins themselves, and I don't know, but their designs just feel so They are D-tier Tenchi Muyo designs, and no matter how much color you add to their hair or how many dealy boppers you attach to the sides of their head, they're always gonna look boring to look at.
For the 1st grade, Satsuki Yukimizawa.
2nd grade, Shiokaze Umano.
3rd grade, Komachi Kusatsuzuki.
Virgin Fleet reeks of a troubled production. It's the only way you could explain why a talented team like this would come together and produce something this sloppy. Evidence that points in this direction is an article that states that AIC was originally tapped to produce 6 episodes instead of the 3 we got. We can infer that being a large reason as to why none of the story components seem to mesh together. From the word go, this anime shoots itself in the foot and never recovers with how carelessly it introduces us to the engine that drives this supposed plot, Virgin Energy. Ignoring the weird implications a concept like Virgin Energy has, the question we're probably asking is, what is Virgin Energy? Well, wouldn't you like to know, because I don't think Virgin Fleet does neither. In the beginning, it's established that Virgin Energy was the power used 15 years ago to beat back the Allied invasion and made the Virgin Fleet into heroes. That's why the Naval Fleet has established girls-only branches of their naval academies so that they may harness that power and be prepared just in case the ceasefire breaks down. That's why women have become an integral part of the Imperial Navy, even in the face of grumbling from the old guard. But according to Shiokaze, nobody actually believes in Virgin Energy. That in the 15 years that followed the battle, the concept of Virgin Energy has passed into legend. And the men of the Navy are grousing that trying to re-establish the 36 minstrels is a fool's errand based off of a old wives' tale.
Nobody really believes in Virgin Energy anymore. It's just an old myth.
You've wasted enough of our time with this fantasy. We cannot reorganize the entire Navy to accommodate a squadron based on the legend of the 36 minstrels.
Okay, so do people know about the Virgin Fleet or not? Because the script can't decide if this is a long-established branch of the Navy or a newfound project trying to make a legend come back to life. It seems like it's leaning more towards the former since it is the event that brokered the ceasefire in the first place, and everyone knows about that. So trying to make the Virgin Energy this fairy tale only adds discrepancy and an unnecessary wrinkle in why some of the men of the Navy are against the Virgin Fleet. Seems like misogyny and the allocation of funds away from their unit are as good excuses as any.
Yeah! You women get all these shit!
As for what Virgin Energy actually is, when Shiokaze awakens her latent powers during her exam to get into the 36 minstrels, it's revealed that it's just generic rainbow-colored psychic energy. It saves her plane from crashing by giving it new wings, and it's what helps her save the exam after the male officers of the Navy try to pull a coup on it. Which is a stunt that should have gotten them court-martialed, or at the very least, severely demoted. I don't think there was much actual thought in exploring Virgin Energy or even the 36 minstrels either. Turns out that, for an anime about a squadron of female combat fighters getting special powers from abstinence, there's very little meat in that gym mat. So more than half the runtime of this anime is filled out with expository strategic meetings by the brass and insipid slapstick.
Have a drink, Mao.
Maybe it would have been different if Virgin Fleet wasn't attached to the most uninspiring heroine in the form of Shiokaze. Shiokaze appears to be your average female protagonist in an anime primarily aimed at dudes. Cute, peppy, has a can-do attitude, etc. So you would think that her character journey would involve a goal of being the best pilot of the Virgin Fleet. Quite the opposite if you remember. Shiokaze's main goal is that she only joined the Naval Academy out of a desire to become the best bride she could be to her arranged fiancé Mao, to the point that it was stipulated in the contract that Shiokaze's deceased parents gave to Mao's family that the two crazy kids can only tie the knot until after Shiokaze's graduation from the academy. In short, Shiokaze does not even really want to join the Virgin Fleet, as that would conflict with her true dream of becoming a trad wife.
Oh, I wish this war would end soon. A ceasefire isn't the same as peace. And I so want to have one. A baby.
You mean you wanna go?
Huh?
Ew.
This is the reason why I felt that Virgin Fleet's overall theming is conservative in nature. Part of it has to do with the over-idealization of the early Showa era. Between this and Sakura Wars, you'd get the feeling that Hiroi is one of those born in the wrong generation types. Because the atmosphere that permeates Virgin Fleet is this sunny innocence of pre-war Japan, where the honorable values of old are championed, and the military are this noble, storied institution, and whoops, I dropped these war crimes all over this video. And Shiokaze is the centerpiece of that. Her goal is to be this shining example of old school demure femininity. All she ever seems to think about is how happy she is that she's been arranged to marry Mao and that she will soon be a good housewife and mother like any good Japanese woman should be. I don't know about you, speaking as an ignorant 21st century white American here, but that genuinely makes Shiokaze a boring protagonist. Her ultimate goal is almost complete in a way, considering she's already been arranged to be wed. The only real conflict that gets in the way of that is her skipping her classes, which puts her chances of graduation in jeopardy.
You want that laggard? I mean the one with the lowest marks to take the exam as well?
One, that attempt at conflict only makes Shiokaze look dumb, since why would she ever risk throwing away her chance at marrying Mao in the first place? And two, it really doesn't matter anyway, since her virgin energy powers awaken at the most convenient time, and they are so brain-crappingly good she can basically get promoted without even lifting a finger. I guess her trad wife aspirations are the reason why her latent virgin energy is so potent in the first place, which is a whole other can of worms. But it still makes her character wholly uninteresting and limits a lot of the plot stakes with her involvement. That's the reason why she can never really act on her own throughout the story. She's either attached to the hip of her fiancé Mao, who has even less of a character than her unless you count getting humorously blueballed a character arc.
Ma'am, is there any way I can join the Virgin Fleet while I'm still a cadet?
Very well. Permission is granted.
Thank you very much.
No!
Or getting into tiffs with her teammate Satsuki, and that has less to do with them comparing skills and more the fact that Shiokaze thinks Satsuki has an attitude problem.
Listen! There's a war, and we're in the military!
Well, you are one to say something like that.
And when you can use a virgin energy as well as I can, then maybe we'll have something to talk about!
I have even less to say about Komachi, whose only role in the story is to crash her plane once and then spend the rest of her time on the ground being small and snarky.
Oh, why do I have to be the first to crash?
In addition, if the intention was to be this nostalgia trip down memory lane to a time of traditional demure femininity, Virgin Fleet also failed in that regard. The men are constantly shown to be loudmouth misogynistic dullards or ineffectual weenie boys. It's the girls who take charge, keep their cool, and save the day each and every time. And they don't even have to employ the traditional feminine nature that Shiokaze strives towards to do that. Suzukure is a raucous, hard-drinking, brawling hellcat with no desire to settle down and find a man, and she can still pilot with the best of them. I can't even say this is pro-nationalist conservatism wrapped up in progressive set dressing like an MCU movie. It all reads like a confused and misguided effort to give old Japanese ideals a modern sheen. If anything, Hiroi and Imagawa probably didn't think too much of what they were saying here. All of these problems, the poorly explained power system, the confused theming, the focus on slapstick and boring chased romance over any actual dogfighting, and a main cast ill-suited for their needs to make a compelling narrative, all culminate in the greatest sin Virgin Fleet commits against the art of storytelling. None of what transpires in this anime is of any significance. I don't care if I'm spoiling how this anime ends. If you do care, I urge you to get help, but I am as serious as a heart attack when I say that nothing of consequence in this anime happens. No lasting damage whatsoever. Any attempt at serious drama killed outright. This is exemplified in what happens in the second episode. Satsuki and Komachi have to stay with Shiokaze at Mao's family's house for New Year's Eve as a team building exercise. But as the night goes on and the underage drinking starts, Shiokaze and Satsuki end up getting into another fight. Namely, Satsuki calling out Shiokaze for not taking her duty seriously as a member of the Virgin Fleet, correct, and it finally boils over until Satsuki asks for permission to fly home early. But right when she takes off, an ongoing subplot involving a visiting ace pilot from Russia reaches its climax when it's discovered that the peace mission she was on was merely a cover for her to steal an experimental aircraft. And don't worry, the Russian villainess is just as bad as flat a character as everyone else, so we might as well just call her Nadia Nogudnikov. The 36 minstrels are scrambled, including Shiokaze in another experimental jet engine plane.
Ew.
Note, this is the final time she actually flies a plane in this anime, but right when they're about to catch up with Nadia, Satsuki gets involved and engages, showing that her boasting was not all talk. And in her drive to prove herself, Satsuki ends up awakening her own latent virgin energy powers, which are as strong as Shiokaze's, eliminating Nadia and her squadron. All's well that ends well, right? Think fast, because Nadia, defying all laws of physics, somehow uses her fuselage to ram herself into Satsuki's plane to crash it. And as Satsuki is surrounded by the flames that was once her aircraft, she has the sober realization that she's now a casualty of war.
This is war. War.
Her plane explodes 1,000 feet above the ocean, causing Shiokaze to scream out her name in terror and sorrow. So Satsuki ends up surviving that, and what, did you think one of the good girls would die in this anime? Yeah, right, buddy. Take your clown ass back to Area 88. This is Idle Defense Force Hummingbird, only not as good. You'll take your dramatic fake-out moments that are undercut with a sugary sweet in-credit song, and you'll like it.
My mother is the one who named me Satsuki, like the beauty of the falling snow, and bright like the sun in summer.
And to fast forward to the very end briefly, when Shiokaze gets the news, the two girls are back to their old ways of arguing like alley cats. Thank God, we almost had a character journey there. That's nothing compared to the mother of all middle fingers Virgin Fleet flips to the audience at the end. In the final episode, Shiokaze is hit by Satsuki's presumed death hard, to the point that she's in a complete and utter funk about what transpired. While Shiokaze mopes, Japan gets news from Russia that old Nadia was part of a rogue faction who was trying to heat up the war, and because of her failure, another member, known simply as the Bomber King, has launched an attack by dropping the biggest bomb in the world on Japan. And if that happens, the ceasefire would end and the war would be declared. And because Russia's hands are conveniently tied for some reason, it's up to Japan to put a stop to this before the worst comes to pass.
The target of the Bomber King is now apparent. According to her message, his course is set for our nation, for Yokohama.
Meanwhile, Mao has an idea that could bring Shiokaze out of her depression. They're going to forget the conditions of the contract and get married right then and there. Mao urging her to put the Virgin Fleet behind her and just focus on becoming a bride like she always wanted to.
Forget about the Virgin Fleet. This war has nothing to do with you. You don't belong there.
We don't actually get to see her answer though. We do see Mao act like an unlikable jackass by answering for her and tearing up her readmission papers in front of her commanding officer, which gives an inkling that him rushing Shiokaze to the altar might have more selfish motivations. Those balls aren't getting any less blue. So now it's up to the Virgin Fleet to do an unapproved sortie since the men all failed. But even they are no match for this bomber's armor. Seeing the destruction that awaits before them, Shiokaze snaps out of her funk and finally takes some initiative by announcing that she will not get married until they win the fights, leaving the wedding and using her virgin energy to travel out to the middle of the bomb's path and stop it in its tracks before it can explode using the power of chastity. And guess what? The bomb was a dud. It's a dud. So in a way, it's like this anime, both a bomb and a dud. This sucks.
I can't take it any longer!
This is what I mean by nothing of consequence happening in this anime. Anything that could have been dramatic is pulled back after everything is all said and done. It wants to be a war anime without actually wanting to address the cruel realities of war. They want to make war this fun setting where there are no lasting consequences. That's why, when the anime ends on Shiokaze getting her draft notice, causing Mao's balls to get even bluer, it's treated like a wacky everyone laughs ending, despite the implication that the ceasefire has been damaged and World War II is around the corner. And given how fraught Japan's military history is during this setting, to treat it this frivolously reads as incredibly tone-deaf. Don't ask what Shiokaze was doing in Manchuria.
Come on, you guys. Let's just say we're all happy that everything worked out, all right?
Virgin Fleet's place in the history has been rightfully relegated to a footnote in their respective creators' careers. It's been overshadowed by the projects Hiroi and Imagawa did afterwards, and is only remembered in the United States as a part of the shameful era where Central Park Media flooded the market with any OVAs they could license. Virgin Fleet did end up getting a sequel, but it was PlayStation shovelware that was Japan only, so unless you're a true super nerd with a masochistic streak, I doubt any of you have the interest. I think I've said all that needs to be said about Virgin Fleet. This feels like a pitch room joke concept that got out of hand. It turns out you can't get all that much mileage out of female Showa era fighter pilots with psychic powers, dependent of how well of a Yamato Nadeshiko you are. They don't even get that much mileage out of the flying the planes part. Seriously, how do you make air combat this dull? Virgin Fleet is honestly worse than I thought. If it was openly fascist, that would at least make it more interesting to talk about. But its non-committal mixed messaging is not but the cherry on top of the bland sundae that's made of boring animation, boring storytelling, and a boring heroine. Sorry Shiokaze, but Noriko Takaya, you ain't. Now Virgin Fleet can be stricken from the flight records. Mission accomplished.
The feeling of being overwhelmed and consumed by the power of the virgin energy.
Ew.
Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.